the one person that you see that you think you're going to spend the rest of your life with is gone like that. And that changed my life. It was hard. It was really hard.
Be Inspired podcast. Real stories from real people. Sharing stories of love and loss, struggles and perseverance, laughter and tears, and overcoming adversity.
It's been said that life is made up of a series of moments, and for our guest today on Be Inspired, she has seen more than her fair share of negative moments in her life, but continues to be an inspiration for so many people. Hi, I'm Bert Barron.
And I'm Lisa Anderson.
And we welcome you to Be Inspired. Lisa, I think the defining word of 2020 could be reinvention.
Yeah, that and just, I think, perseverance as well. So many people have discovered different things that they normally wouldn't have done hadn't they been quarantined. And it gave us all time to pause and think, I think, of things we never would have.
You're right. And our guest today is the personification of reinvention and perseverance. It is great to welcome Holly Green to the show today. Holly, welcome to Be Inspired. It's wonderful to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Just when you think life is kind of going along, and it's some people say life is a series of happy little adventures, your life has been turned upside down more times than anyone should have to experience. Share your story, if you would. Take us back early 20s. A rather life-changing moment happened for you, right?
Yeah. I met somebody who I fell head over heels in love with at a gym. I'm a fitness trainer now, not necessarily as a result of that, but he was somebody that just kind of stole my heart. And I remember he was hanging upside down in these gravity boots, and it's like, hey, how are you? And I'm like, hey, how are you? And we trained together. And the 3rd of July, it was 1986, I think. We were at the beach. It's a drive-on beach out in Long Island, and it was kind of a strange day. There were 4 of us. It was me and 3 guys, which it usually was. And we went in the water, and there were rip currents. So the year before, there were several rip tides that had formed on the beaches. And it was an unguarded beach. We went in, and we couldn't get out. And the 2 other people I was with, I was a former beach guard, and I was able to save them, but I couldn't save him. He got farther and farther away, and that was that. The one person that you see that you think you're going to spend the rest of your life with is gone like that. And that changed my life. It was hard. It was really hard. How do you overcome that? How do you go forward when your whole life you think is going to be something turns out that's gone in an instant? So after that, I was written up in the paper. This was on Long Island, and I was written up as a hero. And I didn't really feel like a hero because you've lost the one person you think you're going to be with for your life, who you've made plans with, who you've talked about, who's your soulmate, so to speak. And for a while, I was in a very dark place. I thought about taking my life. I thought about, what do I do? How do I go on? And one strange thing happened. I was in an apartment. I'd gone to his alma mater, the school where he graduated from, and he set me up with an apartment unbeknownst to me. And in this apartment, I was like, please, just send me a sign. Just tell me you're out there. Tell me you're listening, something. It's like, just please. And I would pray and I would plead. And at that time, I knew nothing about really how to, change your energy or to change your life so much. Just something. Like, just turn the light on. And sure enough, the light came on. And I thought, well, okay. And it's strange because that's sort of been how the rest of my life has been, turn that light on. How do you turn that light on? And it was that sort of feeling of, I miss you, I love you, I care about you. And that sort of energy began to inspire me to continue, because when that light came on, it sort of turned on something in me. Slowly but surely, I got back to where I felt like living again and where I could go on and study in school and graduate. It took me a while, but I did that.
You know, Holly, at such a young age, that's such a trauma. And until then, you know, your life was probably pretty happy and carefree. But to have such a life-changing, horrific event, it couldn't not affect the rest of your life. Despite having saved your other two friends, did you have survivor's guilt? And first of all, what was your boyfriend's name?
Richard.
Richard. When you couldn't save Richard, did you go through a period of like, why did I survive and he didn't? Why did I save them and I couldn't save him? Because that's a pretty tough thing to overcome. I know I'd feel that way.
I did.
Yeah.
There was a lot of that, you know. This is a person that we had a memorial service for him, and he was somebody that always gave back to others. They didn't find his body for almost 9 days, and you know, I was fairly close with his family. So here we are on an unmoonlit beach, and somebody found his body 9 days later. So we mourned for a while, and we had a memorial service for him, and his grandmother said something interesting. I was close with his family, and she said, you know, they find a sailor's body 9 days after the ship has gone down. And it's funny because he was in the Navy as well.
Wow.
And I thought, you know, why am I still here when this person, he had 300 people show up at this memorial service. And I thought, well, I'm not the person that should be here. I'm not that person. So yeah, it was hard.
Yeah. We can't figure out the whys. The only thing, and you and I spoke earlier about this, is I'm very familiar with loss, having lost 2 sons in my life. And the whys are every day. And Bert, you know this about me. It's at some point you have to say, otherwise you'll go crazy trying to figure it out. It was their life's journey that ended then. I don't know why. We'll know someday, hopefully. But I believe it's up to us to bring forth something very positive, as hard as it is, from that, and to show empathy. I think it teaches us tremendous empathy to others, and it's so cruel that we suffer here. And I love that you believe in the light going on and the spirituality, and I just feel like their purpose was fulfilled for whatever reason, and that is the only thing really that makes sense. And the fact that you carried on after, and you could have been very bitter and angry, and I'm sure at times you were, but you also persevered through that, and you found a way to, I think, continue his memory, Richard's memory. And you also went through a really hard time on her own with the house and a marriage. So tell us how life unfolded for you after that, Holly.
Oh boy. So you talk about reinvention and a series of reinventions. Kind of what snapped me out of it a little bit is, believe it or not, know about Tony Robbins and the Tony Robbins program. So here I am, and I'm in school, and I'm struggling with, the why of things. I studied religion because I couldn't figure out why, and, why me and why all of that. And I took a class called Conceptions of God, and which sort of forced me to rethink, well, what is that? Is there something out there? What is out there? And is it just us? Is it just you? Do we just end? Well, what is it, truly? And then I came across that, which also was that you, within yourself, bring about what you feel about. And if you're passionate about something, or you you bring your own inspiration, and then that inspires others. And basically, it was a sales course that I taught to help me get through school. And that helped me climb out of it. And I thought, well, you know what, these things make sense, these steps and this process of, all right, well, if I act as if, then I'm going to perhaps have these things start to unfold in my life.
The energy you put forth.
Yes, the energy you put forth, and then the thoughts behind the energy.
Right.
So moving forward in my life, I did a lot of great things. I went sailing. I achieved some wonderful things that I've always wanted to do based on that. I still missed him terribly, and people have told me that, you know, you're in love with a dead person, which is probably true, because that takes a while, especially when you lose someone like that, for sure. But I went on to get married twice. And through that, I bought a house, and I met someone else, and my second husband, it was sort of one of those organic things that happened. We both skied, and we both did things together and rode motorcycles. I do a lot of things. I live life to its fullest, and that's what he taught me to do, was to live life to its fullest despite the fact that he isn't there anymore. So I ski, I ride motorcycles, I went sailing. I bought this great little house with this individual who I thought I was going to spend the rest of my life with. Also, that didn't work out so well. And during the mortgage crisis, and I went through a divorce, and the mortgage crisis in 2009 happened.
Yeah.
So I got divorced and lost my house all within an 18-month period. Nobody could have foreseen, well, I worked in the mortgage industry. I could have foreseen this because I processed those loans. But I never could have foreseen that when I bought this house at the height of the market that I would have to sell it and go into foreclosure for 18 months. So I watched every month as the mortgage payment in the payment box went up and up and up. And I can't tell you how difficult that is, knowing that this is your pride and joy, and this is your white house with the picket fence and everything that you envisioned, that you wanted for your life. And I'm watching it slowly slip away, knowing that I can't be in this house anymore, and I had to find somebody to buy it because I'm going through this divorce, and that was part of the deal. So I lived in this house for 18 months, watched it, which was a blessing in itself, because I don't know where I would have gone at that point with all the stuff and everything else that we acquire in life. And I'm watching the payment go up in that box. By the end of this 18-month period, in that payment box, it was $21,000. You know, when you look at your mortgage payment every month, and it's whatever it is, $2,000 or something is what mine was. And at the end of that was minus $21,000. And the house still wasn't sold yet.
It doesn't take long either.
No, it doesn't.
It can happen like that.
And especially with today, with what's happening today, when even now I find myself with, you know, rent and how is that going to happen? And I'm going through this all over again, and I'm thinking, geez, please, not again, really. But to people who are out there, if I can help one person understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, you just have to sort of practice and find it within. But in that situation, I lived in the cold house for almost, it was the coldest winter on history and record.
And you had to keep the heat on 49 degrees.
Yes.
In order to stretch the oil.
Yes.
That's a tough time.
Yeah.
Did you have friends, family that helped you through this, Holly?
Friends. Family, not so much. They didn't respect my choice of husband and thought, well, you know, you're kind of irresponsible in who you married. Not that anybody tells you this when you meet somebody and marry them and you're enthralled and think, okay, well, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Sure, it'll work out.
It's all gonna, you're just fine. You look happy. It's great. And then you discover that your husband, this person that you married, is abusive. You don't know that's happening to you. So all of this was going on within, I don't know, 2-3 year period. Now, the abuse is something I haven't talked about at all to anybody, really. So this really is the first that I'm mentioning it. And it's a hard thing to talk about.
It's a hard thing because I think you and I have spoken to some folks who have gone through that. And I think the first thing that someone in an abusive relationship does is to blame themselves. That is so difficult to get over because it could happen to anyone, no matter, your economic status or, what kind of a family you grew up in or what kind of a person they are. You don't see it coming. And I think there is a stigma. Do you think so, Bert? That goes
It's
along
unfortunate
with
that oftentimes those who are victims in abusive situations blame themselves. It was something I said. It was something I did. Something wasn't perfect.
Right.
So I deserved whatever I got. Did you find yourself in that situation on occasion, Holly?
In my case, it was more, why me?
Okay.
Because it was something that kind of crept up. It's words that said that sort of under the table. It's more the verbal thing that begins to happen, where you're just chopped down and chopped down and chopped down, and you don't really notice that. You don't think anything of it, because in my history, in my family history, that wasn't an uncommon thing. As far as like listening to my dad say things and argue and whatnot. So
and that could be just as damaging,
right? And so
if not more than the physical, just as damaging as physical, and you don't realize it when it's happening.
Well, it became that though, because it became contentious, and when you have two strong-willed people, which in a way we kind of were, you can't admit to that's really happening. I couldn't admit to myself that how could this be happening to me, somebody who's done these things and these positive things for other people and maintained this positive attitude and been through all this, and
right.
who is an observant person. I'm an observant person. And you don't realize that this is happening to you until one day, you're punched in the face and you're lying on the floor with a bloody nose, and you think, how did it come to this? It was more, what did I do to deserve this? How did this happen to me? And then you don't tell anybody because you have to go to work the next day, and you don't admit that, well, geez, you've been abused by the person that you married.
Holly, how come you just said this is the first time ever I'm speaking about it?
Pride, I suppose. I think in my case, it's, you don't want to admit that about yourself, that you've been through this person, because then it becomes did I do something to cause it? Or, I don't know. I think it's a pride thing. You don't want to admit it to somebody because you say, well, how did this happen to me? I'm not that person.
Right. No, you are not that person. But unfortunately, there are others that you don't even realize that have these, you don't really know someone when you marry them. Their inner, what they grew up with and who they really are until, unfortunately, you live with them for a while. And I know there was a point in time where you just finally had to come forth to your coworkers and say, look, this is what happened. And that takes a lot of courage.
I did. So as this house situation is unfolding, so I was married for 2 years. I realized that there's no way this is ever going to work, and I do not deserve this in my life at all.
Good.
Somehow I have to get up and rise out of above this, and the only way I can do this, because he was actually stealing things from this house. So I ended up in the house, and he was taking things that were supposed to be going to the sale of this house in this foreclosure situation. So foreclosures take a long time when you're doing a short sale. Yeah. So I sold my house for $60,000 less than I bought it for, because I bought at the height of the market, and I had to sell it now in this mortgage crisis in 2009. Yeah. And I'm limping along this house on my income because he refused to contribute to it in any way, shape, or form. And I always said to myself, karma does have a way of, coming full circle. And in this case, it actually worked to my favor in that I was able to say, well, you know what, this man was abusive to me. And the worst part of it is I knew that he would be abusive again. So all I needed to do was have the phone ready and call 911 and say, go ahead, have at it. And as horrible as that sounds, that was sort of self-preservation because I knew that this is a potential to happen again. And I needed to sell this house, or we needed to sell the house. And the only way that I was going to do that is to file a restraining order, at which point I had to tell my coworkers. I had to say, do you remember when? And they're like, well, yeah, we knew you were abused, but we weren't going to say anything to you.
And sometimes when you do come forth, you realize that there's a lot less judgment than you thought there was going to be.
There was.
Yeah.
I think the worst part of that was when I had both of my eyes where I had a black eye, and it was fairly evident that something happened to me, and my excuse was, but that's what we do, when you're abused and you don't want to admit it, you make up some sort of excuse. I fell, or I hit the wall, or whatever. And in my case, it was walking my dog, and I ran into a tree branch, and bang, I got a black eye. And the loan officer who I worked for, the next day when I came in, he said, what? Did someone punch you in the face? And my heart sank. I sat there, and it took everything within my being to compose myself and just laugh it off. Whereas the rest of my coworkers knew something wasn't quite right. The women around me knew. And I was able to call on them later. They were really a great support network for me that I didn't know I had until later on, and until all of this was happening and I was going through this. But it was 2009 was just a series of events. If you can imagine experiencing, okay, well, you've lost your house, there's foreclosure there, kind of like what's happening now.
Yeah.
You're getting divorced, so there's relationship. Well, that's a failed situation. Okay, so you failed at your house, you failed at your relationship, and gee, where am I going to live? I had no idea. I had a big dog, I had a cat. It's a blizzard outside. I have no place to put my stuff. There's no place to live. There was nothing, and that's when I went back within myself and I said, okay, Holly. Okay, let's go back to what you know how to do. Let's go back to that feeling place, despite everything and anything that looks like it's just falling apart around you. And let's just get there and manifest it. Just find it within your heart and your soul and manifest it. And sure enough, 2 weeks later, I found, and I was set to be out of my house, of all things, this is a true story, on my birthday. I had to leave my house with no place to go. The notice came 2 weeks before my birthday, and I had to be out of my house. And I thought, how the hell am I going to do this? How is this going to happen? I don't know.
Well, we're going to find out how you made that happen when we come back on Be Inspired.
Moving is difficult. At Lowe's, it doesn't have to be. For all of your residential and commercial moving needs, contact 732-775-4118 or get a free FaceTime estimate. Lowe's, proudly serving New Jersey for over 96 years. IgA Nephropathy Foundation of America is a patient-centric organization dedicated to finding a cure and better treatment options for IgA kidney disease. If you or someone you know was recently diagnosed or to donate, please visit IgAN.org. In this new day and age of online meetings and presentations, you need the best team at the ready. Whether broadcasting your Zoom meetings to Facebook Live or live streaming a fundraiser event, Surreal Streaming Services, with over 10 years of experience, can add confidence to your next live stream event. Call or text 646-498-8888 or visit sur-real.com. Feeling stuck with your health goals? Michelle Weber Integrated Fitness and Lifestyle Design specializes in integrating simple daily routines to get you moving towards strengthening your core and boosting immunity and resiliency. With over 15 years experience, let Michelle's team help you reach your fitness and lifestyle goals by visiting michelleweber.com or on Facebook at Michelle Weber Lifestyle.
We are back on Be Inspired. Our guest is Holly Green, and if there was ever a life story that was summed up by numerous reinventions, Holly, I think that's the story you're sharing with us today. And before we went to the break, you talked about how to go forward, you had to go back a little bit. There was a comfort in your life and something that brought you great joy, which leads us to where your life is today. So can you catch us up on where is Holly of 2020?
Oh, Holly of 2020. Well, my dog kind of brought me back to where I am today, because I talked about the golden retriever it was a golden retriever, my dog that I had, who really saw me through a lot of those trying times. And I think animals are a great comfort when there are difficult times around you.
Yeah.
You know, you can,
nothing but love, unconditional love. And
Yes.
I really think they sense what we're going through.
They do, and I was inspired to after all of this sort of trials and tribulations in my life, I ran into someone else who I worked with also. So I'm a fitness trainer and have been for 25 years. And I also worked with another Holly who had golden retrievers. You can look this up.
What are the odds?
What are the odds, right? I mean, so I believe that if you're really paying attention, that you see signs all around you, and it's paying attention to sort of those little coincidences that perhaps are more than a coincidence, and that means something. And for sure, how do you ignore a Holly with 2 golden retrievers starting a program? So I started something called Buddy Blast Boot Camp with my dog, my golden retriever, and her golden retrievers, which was a boot camp program for people and their dogs. So it's obedience training for dogs and fitness for people.
That's so cool.
It was pretty awesome. And then yet again, it's going really great. I lost my dog. I was out hiking, and here's the inspiration for this great program that I had, and he had a sudden heart attack and died. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. It was probably the most traumatic thing, even worse than losing a person. And that just, I could not continue with that.
So sorry.
I couldn't do it. So the program fizzled because I just couldn't even look at people and their dogs. And I thought, oh, well, there's the end of that. But I don't think it was. So in 2020, the Holly of today, when I met Erwin Sternberg, he inspired me, and the signs again are around me to begin this program again. I have another golden retriever. It took me a couple of years, but I ended up with another dog, which is probably the most stubborn dog I've ever encountered in my life.
Kind of like you. Not that you're stubborn, but you dig so deep and you manage to pick yourself up, after taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back, that you just, you plow through it. And I think maybe your dog senses that, like, come on, we have to do this together now, Holly. Round 2.
He is one of those dogs that he kind of is his own dog. However, he really is a great walker, and he would be perfect for this. And again, the signs are around me, and I'm paying attention. I'm definitely inspired for that, and for a resurgence of Buddy Blast Boot Camp, if it's called that. I don't know what I'll call it for sure, but it's time to do that again, and that's sort of where my positive attitude and forward thinking are.
When the world rights itself, Holly, and someday I'm hoping it will, when things kind of get back to whatever the new normal might be, where do you see yourself? What will lead you to that happiness that you've always wanted in your life?
I think, well, in part, finding joy in the little things always does, because it takes practice. I found that, when you're in your darkest of times, and, if I can help one person by how it is that I've done it, then I've done a great thing. But when you're in your darkest of times, it's finding one little thing, even if it's a picture on your wall, or if it's the plant that keeps on growing that's in your window, for whatever is falling apart in your life, finding the one thing and enjoying that one thing, and then thinking about what's next. So what's next? I do want to start Buddy Blast Boot Camp.
Good for you.
I
And
do.
you know what? During this quarantine, COVID, so many people have adopted puppies. So many of my friends have adopted puppies. I can think of no better time than for you to start this maybe now. I think it would be a hit. I do.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, and I honestly do look forward to doing it again because it was a great thing when I did it. It was a full program with dog trainers, and I ended up getting a dog training certificate as a result of it. So I'm a fitness trainer and a dog trainer. It's just been sort of sitting there waiting to come out. So here it is.
Well, let's add you're an inspiration to your life titles as well, Holly, because if someone has met more than their fair share of setbacks and continues to be just a strong and inspirational person, it is certainly you, and we were really honored to have you on the program today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm Burt Barron.
And I'm Lisa Anderson.
And thank you for joining us on Be Inspired.
Next on Be Inspired.
We were traveling all over Ireland. We had just released a record. We were in the papers every day. When I was 20, I got pretty sick. And that was my first bout of depression. I got off stage. I knew something was awful wrong. It all came to a head about a month after my mom died. And I said, Dad, if I don't get help now, I don't know if I'll be here next week. You're going to be okay. It's going to take a while. He said, but you'll be okay.
We're going to do something at the end of today's episode that we've never done before.
I want to see my baby. I ain't nothing to lose.
Be Inspired with your hosts Burt Barron and Lisa Anderson Puleo. Directed by Rod Weber. Created and produced by Michael R. Doyle. Co-producers Burt Barron, Lisa Anderson Puleo, and Erwin Sternberg. Executive producers Rod Weber and Sean M. Sternberg. Editor Rebecca Gruber. Social media team Rebecca Gruber, John Franklin, and Luke Lograno. Filmed at New Beginnings Foundation, Wall Township, New Jersey. And thanks to our sponsors, Loews Moving Service, IgA Nephropathy Foundation of America, Michelle Weber Wellness, and Surreal Stream Services. Season 4 of Be Inspired is dedicated to the memory of Rob Isbicki, a guest of Season 2, who lost his life to cancer, and to his service to the community as a firefighter. Rob was a proud husband and loving father who cared deeply for his family and friends. Our prayers are with Rob's family during this time.